Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion, and learn how they can help you.
This is Jan from Palm Garden. We hope everyone is holding up during this difficult time. We've all had to make some adjustments to our routines. Some may have loved ones that you can't visit, and I know you want to. Our residents remain our top priority, and they, along with our staff, have been tested just to be on the safe side. We appreciate the job being done by the Department of Health, Florida Emergency Management, and National Guard. We will soon see the light at the end of this tunnel. Thank you for your patience and understanding as we navigate these uncharted waters. We are Palm Garden.
Listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source. Good morning, everybody. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. As we are now 20 minutes before the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Good morning, this beautiful Thursday, as we just finished up our segment there with Life South Community Blood Centers. And with that, we want to give another shout out to Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center. I'd like to thank them, where they offer skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapy. And as we've been saying, if you have any questions on how they're handling COVID-19 and as these phases come through and what are some of the things that they're implementing and some of the guidelines that they're either lifting or bringing on in lieu of the phases, any questions, they encourage you to give them a call, 352-854-6262. That's 854-6262. And Penn Flooring, a full-service flooring company dedicated to finding the best solution to your flooring needs. Remember, experience in both the commercial and residential fields. 1201 Southwest 17th Street in Ocala, 351-3420. That's 351-3420. As we're making our way through this Thursday, it is time for news bits, little bits of news that you can chew. As we were discussing a little bit of everything with COVID-19 and opening things back up. One of the things is that Ocala is set to reopen offices come May 18th. It says visitors will get temperature checks before entering city buildings and must wear face masks before entering, as Ocala plans to reopen its offices May 18th with strict COVID-19 safety protocols in place. Interim City Manager Sandra Wilson told the Ocala City Council on Tuesday, all employees and visitors entering the buildings will have their temperature checked and must wear face masks. Visitors who do not have face masks will get one before entering. City department heads and some employees will return to their office on Monday to prepare for the reopening. The city hopes to have a majority of employees back to their offices by June 1st. The city's customer service center at 201 Southeast 3rd Street will open on May 18th. But with shorter hours of 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., normal hours will resume on June 1st. Temperature checks and face masks are also required before entering the service center. A plan to reopen Ocala's parks and community centers is pending, Wilson said. On Monday, the city opened the Fort King Tennis Center and other public tennis and racquetball courts with social distancing guidelines in place. Oh, so sick of saying that word. The May 19th City Council meeting will return to the council chambers at City Hall. The council members and mayor will sit at the dais while 6 feet apart. It says the interim city manager, the city clerk, and city attorney will move off the dais, allowing for social distancing, as social distancing will also slash the public seating available, cutting every other row from seating. Observers must keep 2 seats open between one another and wear face masks. The city will continue to stream the meetings online. We're trying to open back up and be safe as possible. Looking forward to getting back to council chambers, Wilson said. And as like we said, we talk a little bit more about all that stuff opening back up. That's one of them, just to mention, as like we said, May 18th, as they are looking to do so. Florida environmental groups oppose water-saving clause in the Lake Okeechobee plan. This one's a little interesting here. There's a new battle in the ongoing fight over Lake Okeechobee's water level. As we're mentioning things with the weather and southwest Florida within drought, it says over 30 Florida environmental groups have signed letters urging Congress to not turn back the clock 20 years by keeping more water in the lake during the dry season. essentially creating a reservoir for sugar farmers to irrigate their fields. U.S. Representative Brian Mest issued a new release Wednesday saying he'll continue to fight for lower lake levels so there's more room to store summer rains and less chance of having to discharge the excess water to St. Lucia and Kalusha rivers. U.S. Sugar Corps is lobbying for a provision in the proposed 2020 water bill that would force the federal government to manage Lake O's levels under the same higher level rules that it did in the year 2000. And according to MAST, the environmental group's U.S. sugar spokesperson, Judy Sanchez, has not responded to the request for the comment. It says here that the Lake Okeechobee discharges to prevent a dike breach when there's too much water in Lake Okeechobee. The Army Corps of Engineers discharges the excess to coastal estuaries. The water is polluted with fertilizer that feeds algae blooms and can carry toxic blue-green algae that's dangerous to people, pets, and wildlife. And it's not good for the lake ecology either. High water events in 2003, 2004, and 2005 created serious problems in the lake, including the loss of 45,000 acres of nutrient-absorbing marsh vegetation and threatening the Herbert Hoover Dike with failure, placing surrounding communities at risk of catastrophic flooding, according to the Abaddon. Fisheries crashed as it took almost a decade for the black crappie population to recover. Hurricanes stirred up the mud at the bottom of the center of the lake, which raised phosphorus levels and degraded water quality. So the 2000 rules also ignored the freshwater needs for the Everglades, Florida Bay, and Kalusha River during the dry season to prevent saltwater intrusion. The Army Corps since has changed its way to manage the lake and in the process of rewinding the rules again. But it still recognizes 5 priorities: flood control, water supply, navigation, recreation, preservation of fish and wildlife sources, saying, quote, "This is a terrible idea that would result in the prioritization of water supply for large industrial farms south of Lake Okeechobee over the health of residents living along toxic algae-plagued waterways," wrote Eve Samples, the executive director of Friends of the Everglades and T.C. Palm's former opinion editor, saying one more time, quote, "It also would jeopardize long-term Everglades restoration goals." So interesting there nonetheless. We had another one that was another article here that was kind of interesting, as was the and I see now I can't find it, but anyway, two people considered to be hang on, here it is. As this one was interesting. The photo, if you get a chance to find online, to do it justice, is incredible. It says, driver falls out of pickup truck, vehicle crashes into the Ocala building. As this was brought up, it says no one inside the structure when the Tuesday morning crash happened. No one was inside the structure when the Tuesday crash happened. The driver was ticketed. As it says, a pickup truck crashed into a building Tuesday morning after the driver fell out of the moving vehicle. The incident occurred at House Comfort Solutions at 3994 Southeast 44th Avenue Road in Ocala. A Florida Highway Patrol trooper told the Star Banner that the older model Dodge Dakota was headed south on Southeast 44th Avenue, approaching a right curve. The driver, who wasn't wearing a seatbelt, fell out of the vehicle because the door does not shut properly. The driverless Dodge veered to the right, struck a sign, and then rolled into a parking lot and slammed into the business. No one was inside the building at the time, officials said, but Florida Highway Patrol officials were notified at 6:10 a.m. The driver told the Ocala Star Banner that he was on his way home from work. He said when the door opened, he was scared and was unsuccessful in trying to grab the door. The driver had road rash on his upper and lower body, and he was ticketed for careless driving and not wearing a seatbelt. So that one, that's the one I was going to get to there, as that happened here in Ocala, as that happened there Tuesday morning, as the the driver falls out of the pickup truck. That one's a little different, nonetheless. Crazy though, crazy. But the one also coming up here within Ocala says 2 injured in vehicle wreck on Baseline Road south of Ocala. Coming up yesterday is 2 pickup trucks collided at Southeast 99th Place. In Bellevue, 2 vehicle wreck along Baseline Road injured 2 people and blocked traffic for several hours Wednesday morning. Witnesses told Florida Highway Patrol troopers that a Ford F-150 pickup truck was southbound on Baseline Road, while a Dodge Ram pickup hauling a trailer was northbound on the same roadway. Troopers were told that the southbound traffic had stopped because a vehicle was making a left turn. The Ford was unable to stop in time, and the drivers swerved to avoid collision. The vehicle entered into the path of the Dodge, hitting it. The crash occurred at Baseline and Southeast 99th Place. Willie Alvarado, an employee at Boulevard Tire, told the Star Banner that he heard a loud bang, saying the 2 mangled vehicles. Alvarado grabbed a fire extinguisher and put out flames from the Ford. Several people, including the male passenger of the Dodge, tried desperately to free those trapped in both vehicles, but were unsuccessful. Using specialized equipment, Marion County Fire Rescue officials were unable to remove one driver whose body was sandwiched by metals from the vehicle. The other driver, who was pinned in his vehicle that was on his side, was also rescued by fire officials. Both men were taken to local hospital for treatment of serious injuries. So unfortunate there yesterday, as that had come about. Crazy. With obvious the coronavirus as making a change for everybody overall, is coronavirus Florida. College seniors cope with lost traditions. As the end of the year celebration for college seniors had been most looking forward to, but can't be replicated online, so to speak, as Sarasota residents, fearful of wine-fueled college students tearing through the streets on bicycles while chugging boxed Cabernet, can rest assured there'll be no Tour de Franzia this spring, as the annual race and party named for the cheap wine New College of Florida bike enthusiasts drink as they ride through the city at the end of each semester will not be happening, obviously. Neither will Worst of Ringling, the annual house party during which students in neighboring Ringling College of Art and Design toast the seniors and then roast them for their most unsuccessful attempts at creativity during an ironically titled response to the school's official award ceremony. But Sarasota and Manatee's institutions of higher learning have scrambled to replicate the rites of senior year, with campus closed since mid-March because of COVID-19 pandemic, the disease caused by the coronavirus. Colleges are mailing students their caps and gowns and encouraging students to gather on Zoom to socialize. But it's the countless unofficial traditions, the theme parties, post-graduation dinners, and restaurants with parents, final flings, and late-night study session gossip. Those are the memories that the administration cannot recreate, and the class of 2020 is missing most acutely. It says here, quote, typically everybody knows that this is crunch time, but there has always been the light at the end of the tunnel. And then these traditions, said new college senior Jacob Wentz, but now that's out of the window. If this were a normal year, Wentz would be celebrating the completion of his thesis with a booze cruise in the Sarasota Bay, and his friends would be picking up an outlandish costume to wear during the new college's notoriously colorful commencement. And last year, one student crossed the stage dressed as a French revolutionary, and another came as their favorite gas station attendant. Instead, Wentz is living with grandmother Lutz, and it's not bad, he said. She loves to cook, as he's used the time to buckle down on his senior thesis, requiring for all new college students, but for many students, isolating is stifling, and the Zoom sessions and emails can't replace the academic wrangling that they're accustomed to. As that's another, like we said, consequence to everything that has gone on with that within the coronavirus and all that stuff, nonetheless. As one of the things that was brought up was the idea of, with the coronavirus, quote, if this thing boomerangs. I've been hearing that a little bit lately, the boomerang theory, that a second wave of infections could be feared as coming out of Washington. As Europe and the U.S. loosen their lockdowns against the coronavirus, health experts are expressing growing dread over what they say is an all but certain second wave of deaths and infections that could force governments to clamp down. It says we're risking a backslide that will be intolerable, said Dr. Ian Lipkin of the Columbia University Center for Infection and Immunity. Around the world, German authorities began drawing up plans in case of a resurgence of the virus. Experts in Italy urged intensified efforts to identify new victims and trace their contacts. France, which hasn't yet eased its lockdown, has already worked up a reconfinement plan in the event of a new wave. As they say here, there will be a second wave, but the problem is to which extent. It is a small wave or a big wave. It's too early to say, said Oliver Schwartz, head of the virus unit at France's Pasteur Institute. In the U.S., with about half of the states easing their shutdowns to get their economies restarted and cell phone data showing that people are becoming restless and increasingly leaving their home, public health authorities are somewhat worried. Many states have not put into place the robust testing that experts believe is necessary to detect and contain new outbreaks. And many governors have pressed ahead before their states met one of the key benchmarks in the Trump administration's guidelines for reopening, a 14-day downward trajectory in the illness and infections. And Lipkin said is the most worried about two things: the reopening of bars, where people crowd together and loosen their inhibitions, and large gatherings such as sporting events, concerts, and plays. Preventing outbreaks will require aggressive contact tracing powered by armies of public health workers, hundreds of thousands of people strong, which the U.S. doesn't yet have, Lipkin said. So just a little bit more there altogether of the foreshadowing of the idea of getting things back to some normalcy as it would be as such. We were mentioning that the NFL, he's mentioning tonight the particulars of the schedule of the dates of the games that will be played for 2020 in their season, which is a little bit to look forward to. And with that is the idea of thinking about where we would get to at the fall and maybe what it would be like to ever attend another sporting event. It's kind of one of those things that makes you think overall, like when will that happen again? Getting back to a venue, or just something so simple as going to see like a local venue concert. Like I that's one of the things I've always enjoyed doing is even with having Orlando and Tampa and having some good names come to some small quaint clubs to play live music, and what's that mean, and when will we get back to that is kind of crazy, but I don't know. It's all fascinating, I guess. As we're making our way towards the top of the 9 o'clock hour, stay tuned, because after 9 o'clock we will have Veterans News, as it is Thursday. We'll have Hank and Gary calling in to fill you in on some updates that transpired through the week about what they're doing to get back to having things available for our veterans and all that good stuff. So stay tuned. They'll have some good information there. As we are here, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, streaming live, YouTube Live, and we're broadcasting live from the Paddock Mall. And just one more mention, as the plan for the Paddock Mall plans to reopen tomorrow on Friday, May 8th, with the reduced hours of 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and noon to 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. Planned reopening dates for individual tenants may vary, so guests are encouraged to call ahead to find out if their stores are going to be open, and to follow along on Facebook and Instagram at Paddock Mall for the most up-to-date information. Now, of course, it's to be mentioned that the Paddock Mall remains focused on providing a safe and enjoyable experience for everyone. And the continued need to address COVID-19, the center has proactively implemented conditions or additions to the Code of Conduct, effective immediately until further notice. Of course, with the practice of social distancing and staying at least 6 feet apart from other people, covering your mouth and nose with a cloth covered and is recommended, and do not gather in groups. Adhere to each individual's tenants' COVID-19 policies, and adhere to all federal, state, and local regulations, recommendations, and mandates regarding COVID-19. As we're coming up on the top of the 9 o'clock hour, stay tuned. Veterans News is next. WOCA, Ocala.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. 6 more states easing coronavirus